go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's see, Mr. Zier is somewhere down in the sunny Caribbean.
That's right, he's in Antigua.
And,
Motion to approve the minutes.
well, there's no minutes, so there are no minutes from the last meeting. Apparently, temporary secretary was not appointed, so we're gonna have to put some minutes together and get them for our next meeting. And we'll work on that.
Well, doesn't our Secretary of Internet down there, he can watch the meeting and take minutes?
I'll let you take that up with his wife, okay?
I'll take minutes.
All right,
Right.
Billy, thank you.
I don't want to make light of this serious matter of keeping minutes.
No, we just somehow walked by it at the last meeting. I unfortunately was not able to attend. But Bill has volunteered to take minutes for this meeting, and I'll try to cobble together some minutes from the last meeting off the video, and we'll get them together. All right, so Mrs. Corso emailed me yesterday, indicated she had a medical appointment this morning, so she would not be here. Mr. Harrington's not here. Mr. Hayberger is here. Mr. King is not here. Mr. Kuntz, I'm here. Mr. Miller, Dr. Siemens, Mr. Zier is down in the Caribbean, and Mr. Zuloff is here. So I believe we have a quorum, so we will continue on with the business at hand. We'll pass over the minutes and we'll go on to new business. Lions Park erosion control study. Mr. King, thank you.
So Lions Park Erosion Control Study, I just wanted to bring it up because we are getting started through a grant that was received to do a study to evaluate the old breakwater that was out there, try to figure out if there's a way that we might be able to utilize that or other measures to control the erosion that had happened over the years. I know we did some shoreline work in the past 7-8 years, but we want to make sure that we're minimizing any undercutting, any undertows, things like that out there. So the hope is to slow the wave energy a little bit farther out, possibly, like I said, on the old breakwater, and maybe move forward with some project and look for funding for that in the future. So right now we're in the preliminary stages. We don't even have a scope of work. We're just getting a consultant on board to start that study, and we'll hand over years and years and years worth of other documents that we have on file so that they can utilize those. So just wanted to bring that to your attention at this time. It's very early, like I said, but we'll be moving forward this year with that project or with that study.
Great, thank you. Any questions on that? Comments? Mr. Zuloff?
Is there any snowball's chance of beach enrichment there?
I don't know. I mean, this is geared around erosion control. So, I mean, that would probably be a second evaluation. If once we get erosion control and get an evaluation of erosion control, then we'll figure out
Beach enrichment could be part of erosion.
if ODNR allows us to look at beaches as part of their
Right, yeah.
grant.
And I don't know about DNR, I know that, the Corps doesn't much care for it, or it's been unpopular with to say the least, with the Army Corps for a while, but I don't know if that's still true. And I don't think we should assume that. Anyway.
All right.
I'd make a comment. Go ahead, sorry. Oh, I was going to say, from a planning perspective, we know that the community would really like to see water access increase and some kind of beach there. We don't know if that's ever going to be feasible, but that's always something we're going to keep in mind because we do hear about that from the neighborhoods. So something that we'll navigate if we're able to.
Right.
Growing up in that area, there wasn't much of a beach back in the 50s. It was mostly stone and glass.
Constraint. Right.
Glass that had been polished that you could
Right.
use for make stuff out of, I guess. But there wasn't much of a beach, wasn't much of a sandy beach, let me say it that way, not much of a sandy
It
beach.
was very narrow.
Very, very narrow.
Right.
Yes, it was.
I recall it as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just think if we had picked up all those glass, we could have made a fortune.
Yeah.
Sell them to jewelry makers.
Well, right. That's what happens when you have bottling plants and then the
Yes,
breweries
yeah.
along the waterfront, right? Okay. All right. Any other items on the Lions Park? Okay, Shelby Street Boat Launch, dock replacement project.
I forget that was me. Jason did send me an update. They are planning to update all the docks eventually for Shelby Street, and with the goal of being able to upgrade to something that could stay in the water all year round. And he sent me a prioritization, which I can give you here in a second. I forgot that was going to be my talking point.
Mark, by the way, is picking up his son at the airport, so he won't be here.
All right.
So Jason says they're looking at a replacement of all the docks at Shelby Street Boat Launch over the next couple of years. He's meeting with vendors, or the team is meeting with vendors on several options for replacing those docks. The first priority would be the docks used for launching boats and the dock used for ODNR and the Sandusky Fire Department. One goal of the project would be to place a more robust dock that can be left in throughout the off-season. And if we have any other questions, I can direct those to Jason Morling.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on that? You said it's over the next couple of years, and is that being grant funded, or is that just coming out of capital improvement?
I can answer that one. The capital plan has a few years' worth of funding we had set aside through the issue 8 money that was available for Parks and Rec, and then there was also the parking and admission tax funding that was available for Parks and Rec, so the majority of it will be coming out of city funds.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, David?
Can I get any sense of proportionality of like what this kind of stuff costs? I understand the docks right where you launch and the police boat and all that. But I have no sense of how much that stuff costs and if it's likely that, because there's a bunch of other docks there that people use, but they don't use them a lot of the time because they're not there, and I don't know how many people actually dock there. It's just a launching point, but it seems like more people would dock there if there were more docks there.
I can pass those questions to Jason. I don't know the answers to those.
Aaron, you got any idea? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it's designed as a place to dock.
Right,
It's just
right,
a-
but they're,
just
I
as
mean,
you're
people
launching
fish
it.
down off those docks is
Right.
the only thing I see going on there, not that people really dock there. I get the fireboat and, you know.
Right. It's just temporary while you're going to get your trailer and whatever else.
I think we're talking about two different locations. They're both at Shelby Street, but we're talking about the floating docks near the ramp, not the area a little bit farther east where it looks like there used to be dock space that you could rent and those types of things. I think this project is geared around providing more permanent style of floating docks at that location.
That's what I was trying to get at. I'm fine.
Right. Okay.
Appreciate it.
And these will still be floating docks.
All right. Any other new business that anyone has? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Columbus Avenue streetscape.
Thank you. You'll see that the crews are out there working this morning. They enjoyed a 50-degree day yesterday, and those brisk winds, cold winds are back today. But they are back up and running. They're working on the water services. We also met with the concrete contractor on site yesterday. They are working to get started and get mobilized. Currently, they're looking at starting pouring concrete on Monday, they're going to start with the sidewalks and then do the curbs and then do the concrete that will frame the planter areas. And the exact timing of that will be closely coordinated with the business owners, obviously. Monday's a really good day because 2 of the businesses are closed on that side of the street. So that's what we're looking at right now. So you'll see a lot of movement on that project in the next several weeks as the weather warms up. We've been waiting for it to be warm enough for the concrete to be able to cure properly, for the concrete company to get up and running for the springtime. So when they are going to, just zooming out to remind everybody, all of the surfaces of the west side of the roadway will be completed for the length of the project before they switch to the east side. And you'll see that all starting to take shape pretty quickly here now that the weather is starting to turn. Once the west side is functionally fairly finished, especially at the surface level, they'll will switch to the east side. And I wanted to just remind everyone that the traffic pattern will remain the same when they switch to the east side. It will still be 1 lane of traffic going south. It'll just switch exactly where the lane is. For a while, the driving lane will be on stone before asphalt comes in. And that's just something to prep everybody. I don't know that that'll happen before our next meeting, but I wanted to start with that talking point to start confirming that for the public that listens.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Aaron? Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm interested in that too, and just my casual observation walking in and out of this building, it seems like right across the street, they're prepping the road base that they're, so you're saying in a couple weeks, that'll be gravel filled and then the compaction will just kind of occur a little bit by natural settling and such, or is this will be compacted subbase that is ready for pavement, in which case is this like drive into this gravel area and then up and out when you get to the end? Is that?
You're pressing against my knowledge of the engineering and construction of the roadway and how they do this, which Aaron maybe can chime in on, but I know a little bit about the order of operations there.
Yeah, what you'll see is they'll have to build the base up because they're putting the curb in on that side, and the curb is at a different location than it was before. It's obviously moved farther in towards the center line of the road. So we would not allow them, especially with some of the lower profile vehicles with golf carts, motorcycles, things like that. We would not allow them to go down too far. It might be an inch or two, but they'll bring the base up and then allow vehicles to travel over that stone base. And then once they're done with that, they'll redo the width of the roadway after they get the curb on this side, on the east side as well, so that they can get a uniform pavement down through there. So they don't want to do half of it, let people drive on it, and then the edges are all torn up. They have to come back and saw cut a few inches off of it and then repave it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to put the pavement down and let folks destroy it over the next, over a month or month and a half.
Just trying to picture it, I appreciate it, thanks.
Great.
ETA on time-wise for completion?
That's what I was gonna ask.
We're still on track for the original timeline, which is the end of April for the surfaces and the end of May for the project.
And is there a penalty for
Another good.
late completion?
There's not like any sort of penalty written into the contract that I know of.
There's always penalties in the contract, but that always takes negotiation. Obviously, if there's change orders or anything like that, and they need more time to do those change orders, but there's always liquidated damages in every one of our contracts that we can utilize if needed.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Zuloff.
I was wondering, if the design of the new road base is for heavy trucks and/or do we intend to restrict truck traffic? Because we've had problems in the past of large trucks carrying, say, salt or something really, really heavy. And I know we've worked with trying to communicate what the proper route is for those trucks, but that doesn't mean they adhere to it. And we know that a lot of damage can be done. So are we anticipating that, hey, somebody might violate that? We don't want to. What's the design specification for? Could you describe that, or?
My understanding is when you engineer a roadway, you look at the truck traffic that's on it.
I don't know what the exact, if it was designed for heavy trucks or if it was designed for just normal roadway traffic. I don't know if it's thicker or what it is.
Right.
I do know that it's not a truck route. So we have worked with the folks utilizing the salt piles over there to make sure that they're not coming down this way. But that being said, that's for no through trucks. If there are trucks that need access to businesses, and I know in the past, we would get trucks going west towards Metal Tech trying to, those were their delivery routes were through Columbus Ave. So I know we've worked with them to try to get them to utilize different routes as well, but if it's a truck that needs to use that route for access to local businesses, we can't restrict them. What we had done on Shoreline Drive is we worked with them to try to see if they could get deliveries in smaller vehicles rather than full-length trucks, but that's not always feasible either, depending on the route. So we will continue to work with businesses, but through trucks shouldn't be using that. And if anybody sees that, we would love to hear about it and make sure that we can reach out to that business and make sure they're not using it.
Well, it's good to know that it's on your radar, and some, other municipalities have had a deal with that too. It's I'm sure the companies delivering goods are familiar with restrictions, and they'll do whatever whatever's easiest for them. And it's something I really never thought about, or I would have, asked about it sooner. It's a little late in the game to think about it. We have our own, but I'm sure, I'm just going on faith that it'll be fine. But we have our own salt trucks, have a pretty heavy axle weight, and I have seen, damage, and not by our
Right.
vehicles, but even we've had damage from trucks jumping curbs because they can't navigate down there, and I don't know, politically how difficult it is to say, hey, you're going to have to change, because also if you have narrower roadways and bump outs and that sort of thing, it may be necessary to tell the businesses, hey, you're going to have to specify, smaller vehicles. It also is getting to be a bit of a pain at times because of the obstruction to traffic when just pretty much choking a parking lot, choking a street. I know one business in particular that routinely sends their own corporate trucks, and they will totally block the intersection, just park it in the intersection and unload. And, eventually it could be more than just an inconvenience.
Yeah. And I can find out the actual pavement design, if there's any additives, things like that. But I will say, in addition to the items that you brought up with the narrower pavements or the narrower driving lanes and things like that, I think the truck drivers are going to learn very, very, very quickly that they don't want to use Columbus Ave. If they can avoid it, they will, and probably more so because once they get to Market, there's going to be about a 6-inch elevation change as well, that they're going to have to go up through that and then back down. So I think they're going to they're going to try to avoid Columbus as much as they can. And hopefully they stick to the truck routes and take the shortest path and don't use Market.
Wayne Street's pretty convenient sometimes, and you see them hitting curbs and stuff like that. Okay, thank you.
I'll mention during the design process, we did have several conversations about some of the businesses don't have access from any other area but Columbus Avenue, that there's expectation that they will get deliveries from trucks on. So it was at least the design consideration of a small amount of truck traffic on the street.
And I don't even know if you can motivate or even penalize a business for, not for allowing deliveries in inappropriate vehicles, given the situation. So
I would say that you had that same situation down on Shoreline Drive constantly, and it's temporary. I mean, they make a delivery and they get out. You just can't avoid it. People, if you're going to have business downtown, you're going to have delivery trucks, and so you have to accommodate that. It's not 24/7. So, yes, Tim.
Mr. Klein, is there a weights and measures enforcement component to Sandusky PD? I know the sheriff's department does it, the county engineer's office does it.
I have no idea. I'd have to ask the police department.
Do you guys issue permits for overweights and stuff like
I'd
that?
have to ask the police department.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think most of that stuff might go through the county, but I know for our oversized loads, that goes through the county.
Okay.
But I don't know about weights and things like that.
Yeah, I didn't know if we had enforcement capacity in the city of Sandusky.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Other old business with indicating no updates. We've got the landing, the Sandusky Bay Pathway, the Causeway Wetlands, the Jackson Street Parking Lot Hotel, and the Battery Park PUD. Are there any questions that anyone has for staff, even though they don't have any formal updates for us on those projects? Seeing none.
If there are no updates, there are no updates.
There are no updates, and there are no new questions, apparently, which is fine.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Tim?
On the landing, did you receive bids back for that?
We received bid back for that.
Singular?
Yes.
And so are you rebidding the process then? or
We're still going
project?
through. I'm going to have to get extra creative on this one. So I'm still trying to analyze all my options, figure out what I can do within my EPA permits and not draw out more permitting. And there are a lot of moving parts in a short time frame. So this one's going to take a lot more energy to figure out if and when we're going to rebid it and how it's going to look when it is.
Was the landing and the Sandusky Bay Pathway, were those bids separately, I take it?
The Sandusky Bay Pathway that's ongoing now with Mark Haynes Construction, that starts on the west side of Heminger Ditch. That was bid as a project, but the portion of the Sandusky Bay Pathway within the landing was bid as part of the landing.
Gotcha.
So that's crossing Heminger and then taking it up to the north side of the sports center. That will be considered the pathway.
Thank you.
David?
Help me, remind me on the Battery Park PUD that it seems that there was a PUD originally approved or a preliminary plan or something. My recollection is that is now subject to revision. Do we have anything solidifying? I mean, the street renovations down there were made in anticipation of access points and drives and such. But my understanding is what happens within those spaces is subject to change, and that's currently what's happening, or?
So according to our PUD process, there's the preliminary plan review, and that is what has been approved through Planning Commission and City Commission. If there's any substantial changes to that, they'd have to come back for another preliminary plan review.
But is
So
that what's happening now?
that's, my understanding is that is not what's happening, that the final, that they are working, my understanding is they're working towards the final development plan. and that it's substantially the same as what the preliminary plan shows. They've not our awareness to any big changes on that, even on heights or arrangement of buildings or anything like that, or uses. What they're telling us is that they're working on the architectural drawings, so they'll have more details that are required by that final review process, like what the facades are gonna look like, what the materials they're using, and more precision on the unit mixes and the size of commercial spaces and that sort of thing. So that's my understanding what they're working on, and the planning commission did give them an extension of how long they have to give us that final development plan. I think 18 months is what's in the code, and planning commission can grant extensions to that, which they did. And I believe, what I hear from Battery Park Development is that they are planning to bring that final plan sometime in 2025 to the planning commissions.
Thank you.
Any other questions on those projects? All right, we move on. Community input. There are no members of the public here today, so we don't have any input. Ready for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We're adjourned. Okay.